Welcome to Not Safe for Work, a podcast about hot people with hot jobs. I'm your host, Chloe, and I'm here today with yoga instructor Karina Fernandez. Welcome, Karina.
Oh, wow, how flattered. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here.
Oh, what an intro.
I mean, you're an angel and icon. Just for a little background and context of how I know Karina. So like I said, she's a yoga instructor. I met her taking one of her classes at Moto Yoga. Quick plug. And it was the best yoga class I had ever taken, to a degree that I like stalked her down on the internet and was like, because I had been wanting to improve my yoga capability, but you know, it's kind of intimidating sometimes in a class and you don't get that direct attention when there's 25 other people. So I'd wanted to work with an instructor just for like a few lessons, just a really fundamental get that stuff locked down. Anyway, so I stalked Karina down because I was so sure that she was the person that I needed to teach me yoga. And she didn't see it for months because it was in her buried messages. Finally, I was like commenting on your photos, like, check your hidden DMs. Anyways, we made it work. And now I'm quite good at yoga. Well, I'm so excited to talk about your yoga journey today. Yeah. I mean, let's start there. Like, introduce yourself to the class. Tell us about your job today, just from like a high level. Like, when people ask you, what do you do for a living? What do you do?
Well, for the most part right now, my field is yoga, but I think a lot of the work I do has always been with people. It's just like people work.
Yeah.
You know?
And when did you get into yoga?
I think I've been interested in yoga since I was a really small child. Like, I've always been kind of curious about spirituality, and I was raised Catholic, but I've always been kind of curious about like what's outside of Catholicism and what is Buddhism and what is meditation. And I don't know, I just like was really gravitated towards all of that. So so I started taking classes really like sporadically when I was a teenager with my best friend in Miami who was also into yoga. And I think it was when I first got to New York, I did a month of Bikram yoga, which is now really controversial to say out loud. So I'm sorry.
If you've seen the Netflix documentary.
Whoops. But I was really into it because I thought I was going to die. And then I didn't die. And I was like, wait, I want to try again. And so I thought it was like resilience training. And for me, being alone in New York, I thought it was good for me to kind of like just get me strong to like get through New York life. And at the time I was auditioning for Broadway shows, and I was like doing these early mornings, waiting in line like for hours and hours and trying to like get an audition and get seen. And half the time I wouldn't get seen, and it was so upsetting. And so I found that like going to a place and like practicing resilience and practicing, strength really kind of, it was like my tool to just, show up the next day.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. So
I think that's also like a big thing about yoga that I think like people forget about, that it's not just about the flexibility and the like physical stamina, but it's also about the mental stamina. So like when you're talking about resilience and how that impacted your mindset for the career at the time that you were chasing. Yeah. That's really beautiful.
Yeah. And it's just been a really big part of my life, but it's been in the periphery of my life for the most part until I decided to go to my first yoga teacher training, which was in 2019. And that was such a big investment of my time and my energy. And, financially, it was something that I was like really serious about. And I didn't know that I would teach, but I just knew that it was something I needed to do. And the timing kind of was so perfect. And so I went away for 30 days and I was, super clean, because you sign like a personal contract with yourself that for the time that you're training, you're not doing any drugs, you're not drinking any alcohol, you're not having any animal products, you're not engaging in any sexual activities. Like, it is legit no caffeine. So I took it really seriously. I was like, I'm not doing this half-ass. I'm doing this like 120%.
Where was it?
It was in Kelowna. which is in British Columbia. And it was a Modo yoga training, a 500-hour training. And it was life-changing. I mean, of course, like you do something for 30 days like that, that's so extreme, where you're pulled out of your life and your town and all of your people and your family, and you're just like in this different world. It's going to completely change your
How do
mind.
you feel that it changed your mind? Like, what do you feel changed?
I think that all of the practices and like the daily like routine kind of taught me that it taught me a lot about myself, I would say, mainly because I was just with myself so much, and everything I did was like an effort to connect to like the parts of me that I didn't even know. And it was like I cracked the surface. And then from then it's been like really intense. Like I've and I think that it requires like extreme decisions and like extreme choices, but to figure yourself out. Like it is about like quitting that job you hate and having no job for a bit. It is about like taking that trip or doing that training or cutting out alcohol or something. Like these big things, extreme things really kind of break you in a way where you get to understand yourself. So for me, it was just like I cracked the surface of who Karina
That's beautiful.
was that Karina didn't know.
I think like when we think about like I was saying before about yoga, like that's something that is 90% of what yoga is your mental space. But I feel so many people get intimidated by the concept of approaching something like a 500-hour yoga teacher training, because, you know, you might hear that and say like, well, I'm really interested in this, but wow, that sounds like a lot of physical work.
It is a lot of physical work. It's incredibly, I don't want to say hard on the body, but you take what you need from it. Like we were never forced to do everything. Like we were always encouraged to rest because we were doing 3 practices per day, and 2 of them were in the hot room. And I think it's part of like the discipline. Yeah, it doesn't have to be physical all the time, but if you know that you need a physical practice, then you take it as a physical practice. You're not going to be lazy. You're going to commit to what you're in the class to do. But if you need a mental moment and you need to really kind of clarify your headspace, then don't focus so much on alignment and focus more on like your mind. And so I think it's really showing up, which is why I always kind of like, what is your intention for the practice? And I try to say that before we do like the sun A's in class.
Sun A's as in sun salutation.
Yeah.
A's, which is a sequence.
Yeah, it's like it's a
sorry, I'm just making sure the listeners know what's up, what we're talking about here.
Which is always like, you know, at the start of a vinyasa practice, but I always try to give people a moment to think, because people oftentimes just like come every day and they come, I don't know why they're there. This is like a very personal thing. Yeah. Why are you in this space? Why are you engaging in this practice? But I think it's really good to know like what you're working on. And it isn't always physical, but it certainly is, you know, resilience and understanding yourself. Like you are a vessel, and your vessel is your body. And so you do need to.
Do you feel more like a vessel than ever right now? Karina is 6 months pregnant, almost 6 months pregnant.
Yeah, I am a vessel.
How has that, like, how has being pregnant while doing a job that like is pretty physical, like how's that been?
Really, it's been a big lesson I'm learning, because as much as I love to be physical and as much as it's been like a huge part of my life, you have to move in such a different way. And the problem with, you know, guiding is that part of what, you know, keeps me in the breath with the people is moving with them. And I very, very seldomly do you see me in the corner just like reciting a class, and you know, everyone has a different way of teaching. It's beautiful, but it has been a challenge, and I am feeling, everything's like more mobile. There's this hormone that your body creates when you're pregnant called relaxin, and it makes you really hypermobile, and like your muscles are really soft. So you start to lose muscle and you store fat. And that's just something your body naturally does when you're pregnant. But because of that, like, I might think I can do something. And especially when you're teaching, you're like not really in your physical body. You're teaching and you're guiding. And so your head is in like so many different places, and it's a dance. And so it is even more like fragile of a situation to be engaging in the practice as a pregnant person. So yeah, lessons, like currently I have really bad SI joint pain, and it's only going to get worse. So I've been like doing, and another thing is like I've been neglecting myself, which is I just want to relax after commuting and getting to one class, one studio to the other, and then gigging and being on my feet, and just it's such a juggle for sure. And I think it's just the beginning. It's all like training me for what this next chapter is going to be. So it's beautiful, and it's a juggle, and it's like a dance that I'm just starting to learn how to.
I mean, well, that's a cool way to look at it. I mean, I feel like this is the way that I look at life 100% of the time recently, which is that everything is a lesson learned. Every day I learn something new.
Don't be mad at what happens.
Yeah. Like, what did you learn from the situation?
Exactly.
What did you learn from that moment?
100%. Don't harp on like, I fucked this up. And I do this to myself, and it's been my own like, little practice amongst all the practices I have, is like, don't be so hard on yourself. Like, what can you do for next time? And so, yeah, I think, and that's all because of yoga. It all comes back to the practice.
And I'm curious who you were, because I've obviously only known you in this version of yourself that's post yoga teacher training, yoga expert. Who were you before you went on this, that you're saying that like you feel that this like unlocked your mind and whatever, and you said you were going on all these auditions. I know you're a performer. Like,
yeah.
Who was that version of Karina before?
I grew up as a performer, and I've been a singer mainly for the most part. And that's something that was discovered when I was really young. And it was like this little tiny human who would just belt like Celine Dion, Whitney Houston, Christina Aguilera, like, and it was like a reactionary like thing that I would do for the people, to be like, whoa, what a voice coming out of that tiny human. And I just naturally was like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. Like, I love performing. My mom was like super supportive, and she just like was a big part of like getting me a voice teacher. I mean, both my parents were super supportive my whole life as a performer and a kid performer. But the voice teacher, the acting lessons, like the community theater, getting me in the professional theaters, like just auditioning all the time as a kid. And I had to juggle a lot as a kid sometimes when I would get these gigs, because I would be in school, but then I'd have to be in rehearsal, and then I'd have my shows. And I was doing like 2 jobs, sometimes 3, like as a kid. So yeah, I think that I've only ever known like how to deal with several things at the same time, which is why I never could focus on, like, I've never been just one thing. I've never been able to just say I'm one thing. I'm constantly trying to like learn and absorb and create, and to this day, like, I've never had a full-time job. I don't know what the fuck that is.
I mean, you've got a bunch of different things that you do.
So many different things. And I've never wanted to be like, I've never wanted to feel like, like forced to just, I've never wanted to feel like I'm in a box. Like, I'm not in a box. And I don't think any of us are, which is why it's so depressing. Most people that I talk to who have full-time jobs, it's like so depressing, because you give all of yourself to this one thing when we're multidimensional humans.
And also, if you do have something you're super passionate about that you are focused on, like, I think about myself in the parties, it's all I can talk about. Yeah. It's okay to be really passionate about something, but always know that, like, people always ask me like, what's the end all be all for the parties? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I've got to have a plan? Like,
No,
what do you mean?
no.
That's crazy.
I think the plan kills the dream.
Yeah.
Like, don't get too technical. Don't try to know
Just
everything.
go with the flow.
Don't try to know everything. Like, you just got to go with the flow, because like chances are you have what you know, you have what you need, and you don't need to like get too crazy. Like,
And you can have like other hobbies too that aren't necessarily things that make you money. Like, that's the other thing people forget. For example, hi, here we are on this podcast episode.
which is so cool.
Yeah,
I'm
like
so
not
proud
safe
of
for
you.
work is like my hobby.
And
Because I can't
it's
like
rad.
because like I need something outside of the exactly like you can't just be one thing.
No, because
Well, you can,
it's all
but I
informing.
can't.
No, it's all informing. No. I think most people need that reminder, because you are like, it's a garden. You can't have a garden bed that is growing. I mean, you can have a garden bed that's growing just basil, for example, but like companion planting is
Yeah.
what makes the soil, which is the foundation of this bed, fertile and like dense and smart. Like, it's all working together. So no, people do need to have hobbies.
Yeah.
And have as many of them as you can fit in your life. And if you don't get to a hobby for like a year, whatever, people like come in and out of the studio. They're like,
you
I
can take
haven't.
breaks from having
I
hobbies.
think breaks are beautiful, because whatever the other hobby is, it's like you got to rest. Just like back to gardening, after you've like worked the bed, the bed has to rest. So this bed has to rest, and we're gonna give this bed that's been resting an opportunity to grow, and then there's fertility there. But
Yeah.
so we do need to rest, and yeah, and
Yeah.
we went on a side
And
tangent.
I don't know
but,
how we got here, but I'm glad that we did.
But gardening is my other hobby. I fucking love
No way.
gardening. I love
I didn't
gardening.
know. I actually didn't know this about you. What do you have in your garden?
I currently don't have a garden, but
Oh.
because I live in Bushwick and it's too much. It's too hard. But my parents have a garden in Tennessee, which I built from scratch with them. And it's like a 33 foot by 33 foot, which is like crazy, like angel number vibes.
Yeah.
But 33 by 33.
What is the
And,
number 3 angel number? Do you know?
333. I only know this because I went from saying 1, 2, 3 during the pandemic, which is like you're on the precipice of a change. That's like what
Okay.
it is meant by it, from my understanding. And then 333 is like you've cracked the code and you're on the path. It's like go. Yeah. And so I went from saying 1, 2, 3 a lot, and I'm not like weird. Not that witchy is weird. Sorry, I take it back. I think witchy is great, and I'm not like I'm not programmed to be like too witchy, right? I don't do the tarot cards or anything, but I do think numbers are weirdly
No, I think it's
and
cool
star
too.
signs.
Do you know why I see my birthday every day? I see 11/21 literally every single day.
I love that number.
But like, what is that? Why do I see my birthday every single day? Because I've heard that's a thing too.
I mean, whatever you're noticing is a thing.
Well, and
And it's
whenever I
worth
see an angel
digging.
number, I like look it up and I'm like, oh. And a lot of times I feel like it's my friend Casey who's,
In heaven.
sending me little, and be like, good
That's
job.
really beautiful.
Yeah.
I think you should go with that.
No, I do very much.
Don't do research. Just like,
Yeah.
it's Casey.
I mean,
That's so cool.
I trust her. She's got it covered.
That's great.
Back to yoga. So
Okay.
you're doing yoga as your predominant thing now. What does your like schedule look like? Like where are you teaching yoga? Like what does this look like today?
It's slowed down a bit, although this week I'm going bananas. But I was on like a 16 class a week schedule, which I would say is like beyond full time. And I did that throughout my first trimester, which my midwives would be really upset about. But, bitch has got to work. And I was working. I don't know. But now I'm more on 10, I would say like 8 to 10 a week. And I teach at 2 different studios. Moto Yoga NYC, holler, that's my home studio.
Slay.
Slay. And I love the community there, and I love the people, and And I also teach at Sui Yoga, which is another hot studio, very spa-like, very fancy.
That one's yin? Or is it?
No. That's like, they do all sorts of styles as well. But I do teach like a sound bath yin every Thursday night there for this season. And it'll probably change for the fall. But I teach between those two studios. I do my work.
I love that. I mean, and also, of course, you sometimes have like your fun events. We did one together. It was called Yin Hail, which was like, well, first of all, what Yin Yoga is, just for people who don't know or have like only done Vinyasa or something like that. Yin Yoga is more, it's like getting into the deep stretches for an extended period of time. And when I found Yin Yoga, I found that it made me reintroduce myself to moving my body again, because it is moving my body in a challenging way, but in a way that it was specifically focused on my mobility. I wasn't thinking about it from like a building strength, like physical strength perspective. But I feel like it's made me so much better at yoga across the board.
Yeah. Well, I think the yin practice is also more than anything like a practice of being in your body in stillness. And that's
where I still
really
struggle.
Advanced. That's really, really advanced.
You know, I'm always thinking everywhere but
beautiful,
there.
And it's beautiful. And the yin practice, like I take a yin class and my head goes to places, like I get so many ideas and I have to like bookmark everything because it's like, oh, just come back to the body, come back to the body, come back. And that's what the practice is. That's what meditation is like your mind is constantly wandering, but like, let's see what's happening in the mind and try to come back. And the yin practice we're working the connective tissues and we're not trying to like feel too much. It's like finding the ebb and the flow of sensation in the body and the spectrum of sensation in your body. It's like, where am I feeling pain? And what do I need to do to get just at the edge of pain where I'm actually working the tissue and not damaging the tissue? And that's like a metaphor for life.
No, literally. I also don't know why I just tried to explain this when you just did a much better job explaining this.
I actually really wanted you to explain it because I wanted to know what
what my take is.
Yeah, your take is and and I think it's all correct.
But I love yin. So, I mean, it's still my favorite way to move my body. I'm
really
just addicted
powerful.
to stretching these days and foam rolling. Like the way that like that brings me like all day long, I'll just be like sending emails on a foam roller, just getting into my muscles. But we did a event called Yin Hail, which was a weed and mushrooms infused, like live visuals.
Yeah, it was so much. It
trippy.
Was like, let's tap into all the senses. How can we tap into every single sense?
But basically, like I put together the event and Karina's partner, Willie, did like the creatives and like actually led the event. And it was like probably like the most enjoyment I've ever had at an event, although it's the most different event that I've ever had.
It was pretty cool. It was
like
we turned a dispensary basement into like a psychedelic den.
Total. And we want to do this on a bigger scale.
Yeah, we are going to do it.
We are going to do it on a bigger scale because my vision is that it turns into something where it's like we've got maybe 50 people doing the yoga class and then it turns into a party and like maybe like 150 people can also come. But
That's
you need to
the
be able to
dream.
smoke. I need it somewhere that's indoors or has a roof in case of rain, because I hate having to worry about that. And you need to be able to smoke inside or wherever in this enclosed area.
That is a perk. I've done like variations of the event in other spaces with like different people and not being able to like light up a joint is not the same. It's all good stuff. It's all like intentional. And back to like the yin aspect, which is always like a part of these events that I would love to continue.
No, we're
co-leading, co-facilitating, co-presenting.
We're
like,
gonna do
forever and ever. It is like my most like juicy hobby right now is like how can I do this? Where can I do this? And who can come? Because I think we live in like vinyasa land. We're in vinyasa land where it's like one breath, one movement, right? And you can't even hang out in a moment for like more than a breath. And like the way that we lead our lives is so it's just so unintentional because we don't have space or time to understand like who we are today, which is different than who we were yesterday. I mean, for sure, we change every day. And the yin practice and just like the microdosing aspect, like you don't have to smoke a whole joint. Like less, let's get to the less because we need to become more sensitive as people. We need to be more sensitive in our bodies. We need to be more sensitive in like our tolerances in order to get back to the very base of who we are, I think.
I also think just like from someone who can't keep my mind still, like being quiet like the whole class. You know what I mean? Like my mind is quiet the whole class. But you're so good at reminding me to breathe and focus on my breath.
People have literally come up to me after class and been like, you know, when you're talking about breathing into your belly, like I can't, my breath only goes up to here. And I'm like, wow. And so then it's like, okay, get on your belly, get on your, and you know, if anybody's having like the same trouble, lie on your stomach, pillow your palms under your forehead, and just breathe against the floor and feel your center stretch, press. And that's like a big diaphragmatic breath right there that you're going to feel your diaphragm is like really working. And that it breaks my heart to know that people aren't getting their breath beyond their rib cage because that's like, you're in a state of fight or flight like all the time.
What advice do you have for people who want to be more present in yoga, want to be able to breathe deeper, but they're coming up against their mind, they're coming up against their things that feel limiting them? Like what is step one to being able to like be present and think about your body as your, like the way that you say like breathing into your belly?
I think step one is just remembering that it's not going to change. Like that's what you have to work with. And so you got to take tiny steps and don't try to get it right because nothing is right because we're all on a different path and we all are coming in with we're in a different like precipice of the practice. And so remembering that, you know, you got to work with where you're at is important. And remembering that you don't have to get it right. You just have to show up. If you can see that your mind is busy and you can feel that you can't breathe, you need that in order to get to the next step.
Yeah.
And so like awareness is like the key to grow. And that is a big step. Is like, oh, I can't breathe beyond my rib cage. Okay, what can I do next? And so like if you take those little baby steps and you try not to like get perfect or like be this like vinyasa or yoga queen. I mean, I can barely do a back bend. I don't care. Like it's not about that. It's about how am I engaging with myself and the world? And I think that that's a really long way to answer the question. But I would say in simplest form, show up as you are with what you have and remember that it's a practice. One day at a time, one step at a time, and you'll get there.
And like when your mind does start to wander in a class, like what can you say to yourself to like bring it back? Is it just like breathe, focus on your breath?
Yeah, everyone has a different thing. Like I always recommend taking a breath of like, you know, coming back, arriving back into awareness is like, oh, I'm going to breathe. Or some people use a word like I'm here, like inhale, I'm, exhale here. Or some people like, you know, get into their body, like they just like gently grab a thigh or an arm, or they fist their palm just to like come back to awareness. So there's so many options, but those are three.
Right. I mean, that's helpful. I think that's like how I try and navigate it. And I've noticed myself improve on that. I think like once you stop showing up with specific like judgment of like, oh man, like I'm here because I want to be skinnier, or I want to, you know, like I'm competing with everyone else around me because they're able to move in this way. And so I'm not, so I'm trying to force myself and actually I'm hurting my body. Once you let go of all that and really just focus on being present. It's like the first time that I've ever been able to make progress in this practice.
Yeah, and presence can come in like, that's really great. I'm proud of you.
Thanks. I mean,
That's
I've
like-
come a long way. That's like,
signs of an advanced practice.
I mean, the reason I brought you in the first place was I did not want to move my body at all. I could not even go to the gym, stretch, anything. And it was really like, I said to you, I was like, don't push me too hard. I'm going to give up.
Did I push you too hard?
No, but that was,
sometimes?
no, but like I gave you that warning in advance.
No, I know. And then sometimes I would
No.
leave a session and be like,
No,
did
you
I
didn't.
push
You listened.
Chloe? You know. Well, you decide. That is
100%. And I have
you
the same
decide.
thing now too with my personal trainer, Marissa. What we're learning is I need people to hold me accountable. And it was the same thing with her. Like this was like right after our yoga era, like was this era where I was the same thing to her of don't push me too hard. I'll give up. I just want foundational strength. I want my hips not to hurt. I want to build, whatever. And then I got addicted to it. And now I'm in like the best shape I've ever felt because I'm just like, I love feeling stronger and moving my body intentionally. And
It's a superpower.
it's so weird, but I didn't even mean to get here, but I got here. And that's what you have to do is not worry about, getting skinny or whatever. It's
No.
about taking care of your body.
Yeah, it's just about getting to know your body. It's about getting to know yourself. And like the more you learn, the more thirsty you become to know more.
No, literally. What advice do you have for anyone who is in that headspace though? That's like, I want to get to that point, but I'm even just afraid of not the mental component, but the physical component of yoga. Like what advice do you give there? Like, how do you train for that? How do you prepare for that?
I mean, it's the same thing. Just show up and don't focus on the physical thing. Focus on something else because you're going to fixate on that physical thing. So focus on how your breath and your body are working together collectively in the most simplest way. Like people, it's funny because like people really slack on the simple things and really try so hard on the complicated things. And I'm like, but you need the simple things in order to get to the complexities of a shape. Like it's all like, I would say yoga is like, it's all building off of the last thing you did. So like you're standing on your feet. People are like, I can read the room sometimes. People are like, "Ugh, like I just can't be here on my feet. This is, and I'll hold you there for like a minute, just like feel your feet. But like you got to feel your feet before you fold over your legs, and then the extension of the spine, the half lift that leads into the down dog. It's all like preparing you. So it's like don't like slack on the little things that you think aren't important because it's all related.
And reward yourself for doing the little
And
things.
reward
Yeah.
yourself. So like if you're afraid of the balancing shapes because you have weak ankles, like don't think about the balancing shapes. Think about all the things that we're doing that are working us into the balancing shape. And then surprise yourself when you get to that shape and you're doing it better. But if you're just constantly thinking about how you're going to look and whether or not you're going to succeed at it, then you're missing the little gems where the gems that actually get you to succeed. And that's what we do in life, right? We want to skip shit.
I mean,
I just want to get to like the point where I'm rich, or I just want to get to the point where I have, like people know who I am, or I want to get to the likes, or I don't know. Anything in life is like focus on the little things, and the big things will come.
Period.
The
I
end.
have some rapid fire questions for you. Quick answers.
Yeah.
We can elaborate a little bit, but think about what comes to your mind first.
Okay.
All right. Hottest part about your job.
Fuck. That's the hottest part about my job.
What makes you feel hot in your job?
Helping people. That is the hottest thing in the world to me.
Period. Say no more.
Being of service.
I mean, like your love languages are speaking volumes. Misconception about your job.
It's hard as fuck. It's hard as fuck. Month to month surviving, hard as fuck. But I enjoy. I feel joy.
Yeah. And that, I mean, you can't pay for that.
Joy
You
is
can't
free.
buy happiness.
Joy is free.
Exactly. Hottest job you've ever had? Doesn't have to be at all related to anything.
I toured with Boy George and Culture Club for many years
That's hot.
as like a backup singer and traveled the world and met a lot of cool people. That was the hottest job I ever had.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty hot.
Yeah.
Hardest job you've ever had?
Catering, restaurant, service industry is hard for sure.
Yeah, that's real.
But this is what we do. Even like what we're doing is service.
No,
Being of service is hard work. People are.
I mean, working in food service is something you like meet the worst people in the world, and people are so unbelievably mean to you.
But even in the yoga world,
Yeah,
people like trying to get better. Some of those people are, they're just like really suffering.
yeah.
And they like put it on you, and that sucks. But we still do it.
I mean, you got to do it.
It's important work, Chloe.
You're chasing your passion. Okay, what do you have to plug?
What do I have to plug? Oh, sanasana.space. If you want to keep up with like the events that I'm throwing, I would.
How do you
would
spell
just,
that?
Sana is SANA. And it's basically like healing in Spanish.
Perfect.
Yeah, sanasana.space on Instagram. And then if you want to listen to more of my music, it's Spicy Dreams Band, psychedelic pop band that I have. And we have a record on Spotify. So if you want to hear more of my singing voice, you can listen there. And then, yeah, on my Instagram, which is _Karina. And it might be tagged. I don't know if you're going to tag
I'll tag
me.
your
But
Instagram.
if you want to take a class and you want to experience a Karina class, I post my schedule every Monday on a highlight, and I'd be happy to serve you and you.
Slay boots.
Slay boots.
If you could give the listeners one piece of advice of anyone who's just like holding themselves back, they want to get into something, they want to chase their dreams, whether it's yoga or something else, what would that one piece of advice be?
The scariest feeling is oftentimes like the right feeling. So if it feels really scary, it means you're on the precipice of something amazing. And so chase the fear. Live your life. It's like really short and it's not that serious. Like it's all fucking bogus. So be in joy and be in peace and do what makes you happy. Don't
Say
be
no
depressed.
more.
Yes, joy, happiness, peace.
Chase happiness.
Chase
Yeah.
happiness.
Choose it, chase
like
it.
you.
I love it. Aw.
I love you
well, Karina,
so
thank
much.
you so much for joining me today.
Thank you
and not
for
safe
having
work.
me.
You
I
truly
feel
are
flattered.
a hot person with a hot job.
Thanks, and you, boo.
Love you. All right,
Love you.
tune in next week, guys.
Bye. Bye.